In the heart of Los Angeles, beneath the California sun, in a city known not just for its stars but for its struggle, its people, and its pulse, a moment unfolded that pierced the conscience of a mayor, a community, and a nation. On the morning of July 7, the stillness of MacArthur Park was shattered. A park where children run free, where families gather, where the heartbeat of a diverse, working-class neighborhood finds space to breathe, that park was invaded. Not by protesters, not by crime, not by chaos, but by armored vehicles, federal agents, mounted officers, and armed troops, a scene fit for a battlefield, unleashed without warning in the center of an American city. Mayor Karen Bass saw what unfolded and refused to stay silent. She did not hide behind prepared statements or cautious briefings. She stepped forward, with fire in her voice and outrage in her heart. "Frankly, it is outrageous," she said, her voice shaking not with uncertainty, but with fury. "It is un-American." She wasn't speaking as a politician. She wasn't checking a box. She was speaking as a mother, as a leader, as an Angelino who understands the sacred ground that public parks represent, especially in neighborhoods where green space is rare, where parks are sanctuaries for joy, for freedom, for peace. And yet, without notice, without justification, the park was stormed. Not occupied for minutes, not visited for inspection, but swarmed, with military precision, with boots pounding the ground, with helicopters above and children below. 20 children were playing in that park. 20 little boys and girls, with scraped knees and popsicles, with dreams in their heads and no idea why grown men with guns had come to chase them from their joy. Mayor Bass shared footage that burned its way through every screen it reached. Footage of federal agents running through a park as if chasing ghosts. As if preparing for war. But there was no war in MacArthur Park. There was no crisis. There was no emergency. There were children. There were families. There was peace. Until the government shattered it. And not just any government, but the federal government. Bass made it clear, this was no coincidence. This was no misstep. This was a deliberate operation. A calculated, military-style maneuver carried out without the knowledge or consent of the city she was elected to protect. The National Guard, not in camouflage to help with hurricanes, not in coordination with local agencies, but dropped into a city park like invaders, like occupiers, like strangers who had forgotten whose soil they were on. And perhaps most shocking of all, the presence of U.S. Marines, not in uniform for ceremonial duty, not aiding in disaster relief, but deployed on domestic ground, trained to kill, trained for war zones, now walking the same soil where children skipped rope only hours before. Bass didn't mince words. She called it what it was, a military-style operation designed to strike fear in the heart of our city. Fear. That was the mission. Not protection. Not assistance. Not order. But intimidation. Bass said the moment she heard what was happening, she moved. She didn't delegate. She didn't hesitate. She went to the park herself. Because that is what leadership looks like. Because when your city is under siege, not from enemies abroad, but from a misunderstanding of power at home, you don't wait. She ordered the person in charge to leave immediately. No excuses. No discussion. Just a clear, righteous demand for this madness to end. Because this is not a war zone. This is Los Angeles. This is not Kabul. This is not Baghdad. This is not a country under military rule. This is a democracy. This is a city, governed by law, not fear. By community, not coercion. And yet, on that July morning, for a few agonizing minutes, MacArthur Park felt like something else. It felt like a place that had been abandoned by reason. It felt like a city betrayed by the very institutions sworn to serve it. And that betrayal echoes, not just through the park, but through every street in Los Angeles that has known over-policing, underinvestment, and systemic silence. Mayor Bass's voice is now one of defiance. Of dignity. Of demand. Demand for answers. Demand for accountability. Demand for change. Because if the federal government can roll tanks into a public park with no warning, no reason, and no consequences, then what else can it do? What other lines will be crossed? What other communities will be tested? Who else will be silenced in the name of security? This is not just about one park. It's about the balance between power and people. It's about reminding those who wear uniforms that the badge is not a crown. It's about reminding the nation that even in times of uncertainty, democracy must not become a costume that slips off when inconvenient. Bass's words resound. She did not speak with political calculation. She spoke with conviction. She did not blame the faceless. She confronted the powerful. She said it to the cameras, to the agencies, to Washington itself. This cannot happen again. Because parks are not battlegrounds. Because children are not collateral. Because cities are not stages for war games. She reminded us of what it means to lead, to stand in the breach, to raise your voice when others duck their heads. She reminded us that patriotism is not blind loyalty, it is holding power to account. She reminded us that un-American is not a term to throw around lightly, but when used correctly, it is a thunderclap. And so, from the soil of MacArthur Park to the steps of City Hall, a message has been sent. Los Angeles is not a testing ground for military exercises. It is not a place to practice fear. It is not a place where communities of color are treated as threats. It is a home. To immigrants. To workers. To dreamers. To the children who scattered in confusion on July 7th, and who deserve answers. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of a reckoning. And it starts now.